everybody, and welcome to Goldbridge Saves Football for the final Premier League Goldbridge Saves Football, Will. And I feel like we do need to save football right on the hot of the heels of the show on Friday. We had Wolves and their VAR letter. You better believe we're going to talk about that. Should VAR be banned? Manchester United fan groups have done something amazing around that as well. Real pressure on the club. Should VAR go? But let's start off with the Premier League, Will. Man City have won it. Some people are saying it's the best Premier League season ever. A lot of people are saying it's the best team in Premier League history because they've won 4 in a row now. Our Pratt of the week will be a football club. Get your guesses in for who that's going to be. The departure of Jurgen Klopp is sad. And what can Arsenal and everybody else do to stop Man City next year? There's so much to get into and a lot more. No Birmingham City for you to ruin your weekend, but... Are you happy?
Yeah, Villa lost. Birmingham didn't play. So overall, a good weekend. I didn't win my fantasy football league, so I won one, came second in the others. That doesn't matter. I was excited at the weekend, as much as you tried to downplay it with your dismissive tweets on a Sunday morning.
I was right.
You were right, but hope and optimism is what gets you out of bed in the morning, I think, and going to the pub on Sunday afternoon to watch the game. I thought, here we go. Someone did a tweet saying, it'll be Haaland 5 minutes, and it was worse than that. It was Foden 2 minutes, then 12 minutes. But there was that little bit in the middle, wasn't there, after Kudus scored that, and at the end. So I thought it was all right. It wasn't the drama that I anticipated, but when you look at the graphs now of Manchester City's dominance, and the only one that came up in the middle is Liverpool's Jurgen Klopp win, he's going, which we're going to come on to. I think we might do our Premier League predictions for next season today, mightn't we?
Yeah, and I get your comments in on this, because what we really want to be reading out on the next show when we do a proper sort of reset of what's to come over the summer and next season. We're reacting to this just after the day, Sunday, and I think that there's this. I was listening to the radio on the way here, and the amount of Man City fans phoning in, first of all, was quite surprising, because you don't really hear from them. So it was great to know that they do exist. And they were basically just waxing lyrical about, people talk about we spend all this money, but, nobody heard of Rodri before we bought him. And, anybody could have bought a Kanji or Aki or Vardiel. And you sat there going, you spent £90 million on Vardiel. I think they probably spent 50 on Aki. I don't think Manchester United or anybody else were queuing up for Aki at that price.
Vardiel was literally off the back of a really good World Cup campaign.
Yeah, I mean, look, the recruitment of Manchester City is fantastic, but I find it really difficult to not be bored by Man City winning the league. I want to pose the question, are they the best Premier League side ever, first of all? Because I think there are levels to that game in the sense that they are a fantastic side.
Yeah, but I think you have to look at, like, with Arsenal and all the disappointment there, and then they're reading out that they got more wins than the invincible sides, the most goals they've ever scored. And when you put it back to that, like, as much as it is boring for Manchester City to win another Premier League, they are relentless, and they are putting numbers on the boards that we've never seen before. So I think you probably do have to say that they are the best team to have in this period. I think it's pushing Man United now.
Look, I with the 99 documentary's been...
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I have.
What do you think?
Well, I don't think it was as good as it could have been.
No,
I thought Phil Neville swearing just really unnerved me. I thought David May...
He did swear a lot, didn't he?
Yeah, everybody keeps saying this Phil Neville swearing. So we'll talk about that a little bit.
Sorry.
But there was a few bits in the 99 documentary. But look, going back to that, I lived it. I don't think that Man United side... I think that Man United side's better than Man City, and that treble's better because of the hard work. I mean, you just you watch it and you see the games we had to win. Arsenal in the FA Cup semi-final, Juventus, Inter Milan, Bayern Munich, the group stage. Yeah. The league went to the final day. I mean, Spurs fans, you should be bloody ashamed as well. The fact that Spurs came to Old Trafford final day and tried, and they were a mid-table club, and yet last week they can't be bothered when they could get Champions League. We'll talk about that later as well. But where I will give Man City credit, Will, and everybody else, is that there is no doubt that Man City side / squad with Pep is without doubt, and people will probably be surprised by what I'm going to say, 100% that's the best Premier League squad in history. That and squad's the word. I don't think team's the word. There are teams out there that I would say would give them a game. I think the Treble United side, best team would. I think there's a Chelsea team that Mourinho had that would. And as we've seen with Liverpool with Klopp, that team won the league that year. And up until COVID, I think they were untouchable. They were looking at something ridiculous as well. So I think there are Premier League teams out there that can give these Man City teams a game. Is it the best Man City team? I think the Centurions were very good.
Yeah.
But what we've got here now is, without doubt, in my opinion, the best Premier League squad in history, and that's why they've won 4 in a row.
Yeah, because going back to that Man United side, they really firmed up on having 2 players for each position, didn't they? And with Manchester City, you've got that, but you've not just got. With the Man United one, it's quite Blomqvist was never going to replace Giggs, but like Alvarez could really push Haaland. Do you know what I mean?
He'd start for
Foden
if he was at Arsenal.
and KDB. They've got elite players in every single position. Like the biggest summary of that is Ederson goes out, Ortega makes one of the saves of the season, wins them the Premier League in that Spurs game. So that's what worrying. And even like I like to get into football because of the stories, the narrative. But like even with Manchester City, it's like they roll out Jack Grealish, who nearly puts a party popper in his cock, and then Pep Guardiola there, like he didn't even cry this time.
No.
So it's just a bit like winning just becomes relentless, doesn't it? And that's what these top sides are like, and I'm sure there'll be a great Michael Jordan-esque Last Dance documentary on their period of dominance under Pep, but I don't know,
the word I use is tiresome. I'm tired of it as a fan. I find it boring. I think Pep's getting tired of winning. You've got Klopp, who's leaving from exhaustion of trying to compete with it. Yeah. I think it is becoming tiresome, and I think that's the problem for the Premier League. The interesting thing for me is, you mentioned Alvarez, you mentioned Ortega, we mentioned Vardiel. You give Arsenal those 3 players, they all solve problems for Arsenal. Yeah. I think Ortega's better than Raya. That might create a debate, but he's fantastic. Vardiel's better than anything they've got at left back, and Alvarez would actually probably be the missing link for Arsenal, and these are players that don't necessarily even start for Manchester City. They've got the best squad we've ever seen in Premier League history. I will concede that to Man City. And it's not necessarily those players' fault.
Sorry, and as well, just you think of the recruitment in, the recruitment out. Remember when Arsenal signed Zinchenko and Jesus, and they had that really good start to the season? We were like, what's City doing? Get rid of them. But that's turned out to be like, they knew what they were doing, really. Yeah. They're not exactly taking
Cole
them
Palmer
to the next
at Chelsea.
level. Yeah.
I mean, look, the Man City strength is indicated by who comes in as their reserve goalkeeper, who's their backup striker, who they sell to. They sell to Chelsea and Arsenal, and they don't give a shit. They're like, we don't care. That is the behaviour of a complete and utter juggernaut. What football club sells one of their best youth players to Chelsea who could compete for them for top 4? You're selling players to Arsenal who end up being your rival for the title. They just don't care. And it's not the players' fault, but to all those City fans and everybody else who are trying to say, well, no, that they're the best team in Premier League history, there has to be an acknowledgement that there is a massive but there. When we look at what Arsenal can do, the reality is very, very little. I think for Arsenal to compete with Man City next season, you take that Arsenal side and you'd have to say, give them Isaac, give them Gordon, give them Bruno Guimaraes, give them Pedro Porro, give them Van der Ven, give them Douglas Luiz, and just to put them on the bench, because that's what Man City have got. Yeah. That beyond the best 11, they've got an amazing. You can't compete with that.
Douglas Luiz, another one they sold.
Yeah, I mean that is the juggernaut of Manchester City, and I was listening to a Man City fan last night, and they were saying, you know what, and we've had our challenges this year. Yeah, I was like, I've got to listen to this. The challenges were De Bruyne was out for half a season, Stones has hardly played, Haaland missed a couple of months, and I'm like, yeah, and nurses have it hard. It's like they're and of course the big but that we have to acknowledge is you can't sit there and say, this is the best team in the world. Forget the fact that we've been charged 115 times. Because if you know anything about the charges, and they're not served charges yet, they are charges from the Premier League, and we play in the Premier League. But if you look at what those charges actually are, they directly contribute to the team that we're now talking about dominating the league. They don't build that squad without circumventing what the Premier League are saying that they should have done. The wealth that they brought into the football club, that the Premier League are charging them with, saying you've inflated deals to bring more money into the club to allow you to spend more money. I'm sorry, those charges equate to what you see over the last 4 years in relation to their dominance of football that they built on the foundation of what the Premier League have charged them with. So if we're saying it's the best ever Premier League side ever, are we saying that the Juventus team that won Serie A or the AC Milan team that won Serie A are the greatest teams ever. No, not in Italy. They go, well, they cheated. And so that's the thing, isn't it?
And I think the big thing for me is like, what's next? And it's quite frustrating. It's like WWE long-term storytelling. You have to pick a side, and they have to build up for 3 years to get in a position where this year this was like when Liverpool lost out to Manchester City with when they were in the 90s, wasn't it, on the total points? So next year, is that the one where Arsenal take the crown off Manchester City? It's just, and also if that comes to the backdrop, which we're going to get onto, with Pep potentially leaving at the end of next year, well, he's just going to be even more relentless, even more ruthless, and we could be at a stage where it's 5 in a row and we are the French league.
I think, and I've said this before, I think this was Arsenal on a 10, and I think it was Man City on a 7.5. So if Man City go up to an 8...
It was Pep on a 10 as well, I think, to get the best out of what he had.
But the team can be better.
But also as well, recruitment-wise, I know that I don't know the inner workings of them, but obviously with the players that were leaving last year, it felt like the holes were clear. But maybe like an extra defensive midfielder to replace Calvin Phillips.
Yeah, bring a winger in.
Bring your winger in.
I mean, they are the complete machine. You know what? If anyone's ever seen Terminator, you've got John Reese who comes back from the future. Well, basically, Terminator's a bloody kick-ass.
Is it like Mamma Mia?
Machine. No, nothing like Mamma Mia. There's no singing. It's not a musical. There's no dancing. It's hardcore machine killing people. And he's from the future.
Right.
Arnie. And he basically looks like a human, and then you punch him in the face and it's steel underneath because he's a robot. He's indestructible. And then the resistance fighters from the future, they send this bloke, I can't remember, I think it's John Reese. I probably got it wrong. Oh, it might be Kyle somebody. It's John or Kyle.
Right.
And he's a human being trying to stop this Terminator.
Right.
He does a good job, but ultimately at the end, I don't want to spoil it.
Well, there's a Terminator 2, isn't there?
Well, the Terminator does get beat, but let's just say Kyle doesn't go well for him either. But he tries his best. He's got homemade bombs and all sorts, but he's up against a machine. Yeah. And that is what Arsenal have done this season. They've tried their best, and we were all singing for them. Yeah. But ultimately, you can't beat a machine, and that's what Man City are. And that's the Premier League's issue as we look forward. I don't see what Arsenal can do or any other club for that matter, I don't see what any other football club can do to topple Manchester City. But a lot of people say it's just because of Pep. If Pep wasn't there, they'd be more vulnerable. I don't know. I mean, they did win the title with Pellegrini. They did win it with Mancini. It's not like they'd still be very tough to beat. You've got to acknowledge Klopp's leaving Liverpool. If Pep wasn't at Man City, there would be a drop-off. But I still think they'd be massive favourites.
One thing I wanted to come on to as well, related to Manchester City, surely now you've got to agree Phil Foden is the player of the year.
Yeah, I will put my hands up. I think I actually was being a bit of twat.
Sorry.
No, I saw him score that first goal against West Ham.
Just checking, you're not the Terminator. This is a real person.
The real one's is in a shed.
Get me out.
Up. I'd never say that. Let me out. I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here. No, we
because I didn't get the argument of, because then you just trouncing on like Ronaldo being in, like him being part of a good team. That's nothing to do with him. He's excelled at that.
I'm very excited.
So just down the camera then. A big apology.
I'm very excited about Phil Foden being in the Euros for England because I think we're going to win it. Despite Southgate, you look at Declan Rice, Phil Foden, Saka, Kane, Bellingham. I think Harry Maguire's brilliant for England. Stones, Pickford. Yeah. I'm getting in the England mood now.
What has happened?
I'm getting in the England mood. But when I saw that Phil Foden had won Player of the Year, I actually always felt that Declan Rice deserved it because I've spoken about it a lot on here. And I did like Alexi McAllister as well. But I think in these final weeks of the season, you've got to acknowledge the fact that Phil Foden has been brilliant. And when you're scoring... that goal against West Ham, the instant control in the top corner and in the Champions League, I haven't really got a problem with it. I just don't like Man City.
No, I know, but you've got to take that out of the way. No, you've got to put your England hat on as well. Yeah. And one of the things as well for Arsenal challenging was, I don't know if you saw Rodri's post-match interview on Optus Sport. If you did, you've done some good job there. But he was basically saying he thinks they deserve it because they had a better mentality. And the proof of that was when Arsenal came to the Etihad and got a draw and were celebrating that. Now, what are your thoughts on Rodri?
I think Man City fans...
You did say that they were brilliant as well.
I think Man City fans, I might shock you again, I do feel sorry for them because it's not their... It's a bit like Forest fans and... Well, I'm not talking about Everton. They deserve it. But the point I'm trying to say is that it's never the fans' fault, really. You have to defend your club and you have to believe
be in
your
that
club.
position, should you, where you're having to know what 115 charges are.
And obviously Man City, all Man City fans have got at the moment is bitter, salty, tears and all this lot. Well, of course we're bitter and salty because you're dominating football, but you know, what's your answer to the fact that if you have done this, everything that you've been cheering for means nothing? You know, it doesn't. But they already have this problem as well of when they win that trophy yesterday, they're on social media like trying to wind everybody up because they know they're not going to get any praise. So they've got to shout, salty, bitter, ha, 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 because they need that. Then it must be a horrible thing to do what they've done and know that nobody respects it. And even Pep Guardiola, when he did the 6 and somebody put the hand there, 115, that never used to happen really to Liverpool when they were good in the late 80s or Chelsea or Manchester United. You'd have haters, but people would begrudgingly have to say they're too good. Man City are too good, but they do. I'd have sympathy with their genuine fans that they do not get respect and they're not going to get it. And even if they get found not guilty, I still think in the court of public opinion, people will go, yeah, but, you know. So when Rodri's coming out about mentality, and I heard another Man City fan saying, well, Arsenal bottled it. You know, ultimately, Arteta should have rotated more when Saka was tired and brought Smith Rowe in, and ultimately they didn't have enough energy. And I'm like, hold on a minute. They only lost to Arsenal. They've won loads of their last games. So what you're basically saying is you should have rotated a little bit more so they might have won their last 12 in a row, which is just stupid. Yeah. Reality is. So I think when Rodri talks about mentality of Arsenal or people talk about squad rotation, I don't think Arsenal can do any more.
Yeah.
I don't think there is any... There's nothing more to Man City's dominance than the fact that they have the best of everything.
Yeah.
And everybody else, therefore, has a weakness, which then transpires to be why Man City win the league. It's not about mentality. It's not about rotation. Man City have got the best of everything, from manager to players to structure to money, and they are the blueprints in how, if you spend your money correctly and you've got the most money, you will win. Because Man United have spent money over the last 10 years. Chelsea have spent money. But Man City have spent money in a ruthlessly efficient way. There's no secret sauce. Yeah. They've just got the best of everything.
Well, I think we can save football by celebrating football as well. And I did want to shout out Arsenal for obviously an amazing season and pushing. And also with Arteta having another year under the belt, those players having a year under the belt, I do feel like next season will actually be a one where this could be the sort of dethroning of Manchester City.
You think Arsenal could win the league next year?
I think Arsenal could really win the league next year because they've got the stability of the players, the squad, the manager, and if we know what areas they need to improve, like they will have known 6 months before us, and hopefully have those recruitment plans in place to get, I don't know, is it another false nine? Is it a winger to come back up? Because, you know, even at left back, Timber's going to be there for the season where Zinchenko's not been up to form. So I really do think next year could be the one where we see Manchester City and Pep toppled.
There's a lot of things that have to contribute to that, though. I mean, you look at Chelsea, Man United, Brighton, Newcastle, devastated by injuries. I mean, if Arsenal did pick up a few injuries to big players, that's going to drop them points. Yeah. But ultimately, I think it's boring. Even if Arsenal win it, we know what they've got to do. You've basically got to win virtually every game. And I look at the final 2 months of this. Look, if you take Man City out this league and Arsenal win the league, what a season we've just had. Liverpool pushed them for a bit and then fell away and Arsenal win it. But to win this league, Arsenal have to beat Villa. Yeah. Which means they've got to win their last however many games in a row. As a consumer of football, that's not interesting. I remember watching Chelsea, Man United title races, and in the last few weeks, you go to bottom of the league away from home and you draw.
Yeah.
Oh, but then they've drawn as well. That's what real football's about. To win the league now, because Man City are such a machine, if Arsenal are going to win the league, they've got to become a machine themselves. And that's not actually good for brand Premier League when when Liverpool won the league, didn't they both win their last 12 games in a row?
Yeah, it was.
That's not actually entertaining as a Premier League title race, apart from the fact that they're both winning. From a brand point of view, we need a more level playing field. And I think that only happens if Man City are taken out of the equation. And then it's been a very, very good Premier League season. But you're right, if Arsenal are going to win the league next year, what do? They've got to stop that Aston Villa result, which means you've got to win multiple games in a row. I don't know whether they can do that. Honestly, I think City win it next year.
Yeah. Should we move on to Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp?
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp did speak about the 115 in his sort of farewell tour, and he sort of skirted around it a little bit. He said, look, Man City don't win those titles without Pep Guardiola in charge. So he's very glowing about Pep Guardiola. I sort of disagree, but I also don't want to dismiss the fact that Pep's a fantastic coach. And then he said, look, in relation to the Chargers, I mean, I'm summarising here. In relation to the Chargers, I don't really know what it is they're supposed to do, etc. But I'd like to know in the future, but I won't be here. And I thought, well, you do know what they've done. I think some people just listening to the radio and the TV this morning, it's all about, amazing Man City. It's almost like what we need to remember is radio stations, TV stations, they pay the Premier League for licenses. They're not the free talking
but there
place
is a bit
that we
of
can be. They've got to toe the line a little bit. And ultimately, it's in the radio stations and the TV stations' best interest to big up the Premier League. They're not coming at it from, let's say, football. They're coming at it from a point where they need brand Premier League to do well so they can get brands on their adverts. There's no way a commercial radio station or a commercial TV station are going to go, what a boring league that was. Questions need to be asked about Man City. 3 up, 3 down again. This is the most boring league in the world. And then old car manufacturer goes, we don't want to do this.
No, when you put it like that, to be fair. But that's why it's disappointing where you've got someone like Jurgen Klopp, who has beaten Pep Guardiola in this Manchester City setup, is saying goodbye because, like you've said on Twitter, like you can understand why he's going to have a break, because especially him, because it's so visual and so vivid with his emotions on the pitch and everything that he's done. I was thinking about him yesterday. Like, imagine like when he just sits down last night and just has a beer and he's like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" He's like, "I ain't doing fucking anything."
I mean, probably when I put that tweet out yesterday, I think that, when we've spoken about Jurgen Klopp this season and him quitting, it's almost been like, but you're building another team.
Yeah. And
that's what Sir Alex Ferguson used to do for 25 years, just build another team. And I was a bit surprised by it. But, actually this weekend, it really resonated just why he's doing it. He's been broken.
Yeah.
He's been broken by the tiresome relentlessness of Manchester City. And it must virtually kill you. And you can visually see the difference between Klopp over the years, but it must kill you to know that to topple Man City every week of every year, because it's in the summer with your recruitment.
Every day.
Everything's got to go right. There can't ever be a drop-off. And even then, Liverpool did get, 98, 99 points and not win the league. So I think if you want the answer as to why Jurgen Klopp's leaving Liverpool, it's because of Manchester City, because a normal football club cannot compete with that. You've got the best manager in the world, Pep Guardiola, with all the warfare.
Yeah.
And then you've got Jurgen Klopp with a hand behind his back. It's like, it's no surprise that he's absolutely exhausted and he's had to walk away. I think it's sad. I'm really sad he's going.
I watched so many of the interviews, and Sky did a really nice piece where some of these ex-players were talking about him, because his famous quote was like, it's more how the players speak about me when I leave than when I come in. And just as a character to the Premier League, I think that's actually, if we're talking about brand Premier League, like, he is so integral for that, because he does moan about the 12:30 p.m. kickoffs, but to have that one, when you see something married up so perfectly of like someone who gets Liverpool and gets the club, you don't very rarely get that. And as fans, obviously they've resonated with that. And even as an outsider, I think he shows the best aspects of Liverpool. Like we've seen it this season when they came out with the statement and everything like that, of like they do look after their own, they do speak out, and he's just brought that on board and taken them on a journey from, like, if you look at that team that was going out against Norwich and some of the absolute B-Tech warriors there, like, for where they are now and the expectations, I think, and also, from a Man United fan and Everton fans, I get like, Klopp could have done more jumping on it from a rivalry thing, but with everything we've just spoken about, I think it should be celebrated even more, the fact that they've been to as many Champions League finals, won Champions League final, Premier League, domestic cups, with everything that Manchester City are doing.
Yeah, and obviously Everton and, well, shut up Everton, but Man United fans, you are going to naturally dislike Liverpool. Yeah. But I think that then what you get is that Jurgen Klopp should listen to me and other Man United fans, because we don't like Liverpool. They're our biggest rival. So when you give respect to a Liverpool manager, it's double respect. And I just think he's going to be a massive loss to the Premier League personality-wise. And everybody likes a working-class hero, don't they? And what I mean in a footballing sense is that you've got the upper-class Man City, and then you've got Liverpool that are sort of middle class, really. There's a class difference in relation to
even
wealth.
Like Pep and Klopp have, like,
resource.
In terms of like, Pep was the top level of his game. I think Jurgen Klopp peaked. He played at Mainz, didn't he? In terms of like that. So just that extra, like, I don't know, not that it means more, but yeah, you do sort of get behind that.
He's certainly been punched. I tell you what, it actually pisses me off that people just say Pep Guardiola is better than Jurgen Klopp, because you can have a proper debate here without disrespecting Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola has done absolutely fantastic, but you're telling me if we reversed this and we gave Jurgen Klopp Man City when Pep came in and we gave Pep Liverpool, I think we'd be probably looking at Jurgen Klopp winning a lot of Premier League titles as well, because where I see the similarities, and this is what coaching's all about, and Arteta's doing it as well, you look at Pep Guardiola and some of the players that he's made better. You know, certainly the likes of Mahrez would be one. Kyle Walker would be another one. Yeah, they've done things other clubs can't do with the likes of Erling Haaland, but this is the strength of Jurgen Klopp, is that Jota from Wolves makes him better. Van Dijk makes him world class. I think Klopp's legacy at Liverpool will be many things, but for me as an outsider looking in, it's that ability to bring in a player at a certain level and maybe take them 2 levels up. So an average player becomes top class. A good player becomes world class. We've seen it with Alexi McAllister this year. He's gone up levels as well. A fantastic coach. And I don't buy into the fact that Pep Guardiola is better than Jurgen Klopp just because he's won more things. Pep Guardiola is an amazing coach, but everywhere he's been, has been surrounded by money and really good players, and he has developed players. Everywhere Jurgen Klopp's been has been in a massive... He's done it the harder way.
But don't you think that's part of his... not part of his charm, but part of his, like, he needs to go into those challenger clubs, because if he's going into... Like, I couldn't imagine him managing at Real Madrid, where they're going to now, because that's the peak, and, like, maybe... Like, there is a certain level of attributes that you need to... like manage at the top, rather than being that fighter that's like making their way up to the top. And I think Jurgen Klopp does that perfectly. Like, we were chatting the other week, weren't we? Like, where's Jurgen Klopp going to go if he's not going to manage in England? It would need to be like a Atletico Madrid or a team like that he can bring forward and do something miraculous with.
I think the interesting thing about Klopp is, will it be the end or where he goes next? And wherever he goes next, I suppose the biggest compliment is, I think we'll all be watching.
Yeah.
Because he is a box office manager. He's, Mourinho's very similar. You want to listen to his press conferences wherever he is, and I think Klopp's the same. And the Premier League, as much as it pains me to say it because he's a Liverpool manager, and we should be celebrating as United fans that Klopp's not there anymore because it weakens them. If I had the choice, I would actually keep Klopp at Liverpool, because I think the Premier League is a better place with him.
Yeah. And it'd be very interesting to see, like, been all the sort of mini rumours of, like, Van Dijk retracting his comments, obviously Salah and Klopp having that tete-a-tete, but, like, I just wonder how Arne Slot is going to slot in, yeah, lovely stuff, for that new season.
I don't know about you, but I suppose for Liverpool, I would hope there is a drop-off, obviously as a United fan, but I also think it's a bit like when Sir Alex Lee left Manchester United, when Pep leaves Man City, you almost, if there isn't a drop-off, there deserves to be a drop-off because Jurgen Klopp did such a good job.
Yeah.
I think there has to naturally be a drop-off, but I also think it depends who stays, because if I'm Arne Slot and Mo Salah stays, for my first year at Liverpool, I know that is a massive thing, because he might help me. So I think it's really going to be interesting with Liverpool. I want to talk about VAR, because we missed this, and we've been talking about this all bloody season. Turn it off, VAR's crap. And then we put the show out on Thursday, which we recorded on Wednesday, which was weird because we had some other stuff going on. And then on Thursday, we saw that Wolves had put this letter out basically saying that they want to put a motion in front of the board of the Premier League clubs in June to vote on scrapping VAR because of, and it was a very good letter, basically, ruining it for the fans, goal celebrations, inconsistent, all the things we've mentioned. What's your observation on that, everybody at home? Getting your comments. We're actually going to have a poll on Spotify for this, because it wasn't as much of a landslide as I thought, but then we've had this huge thing come out from Manchester United fan groups last night, which you might not be aware of yet. But what's your reaction to that? Because when I tweeted about it, the vast majority have come at it with, it doesn't need to be switched off, we just need better people. But for me, that's not, we've been talking about this all year, that it needs to be switched off.
Yeah, for me, it's very clear what to do, and like we've had the debates on it, and we've gone back and forth on it. Like, if the technology is there to prove certain things right, let's use that. Goal line technology works perfectly. I think they're implementing the UEFA style offside rule next year. That's perfectly. One, because it gets it right, and two, because of the quickness of it.
Yeah.
Everything else is subjective. I prefer. There's a level of like, even watching the playoff games over the weekend or just before, of like, a decision happens. There's almost a bit of like empathy towards the referee and just the decision, because it's done. Then we'll chat about it afterwards, but it's not going to be this 4 or 5 minute carry on. So I just absolutely bin it, because it's been so detrimental to the game, both in the stadium experience and out of it. And I know they're going to try and bring in the NFL style thing where Michael Oliver will be like, the decision is to this, that, like, that's not going to do anything, because one, they're all narcissists, and two, that'll probably feed their ego, and three, that like they're just not the best communicators. If they can't communicate to 22 players on the field, how are they going to communicate to 40,000 people in the stadium?
Yeah, I think what we're voting for here as fans, because you're the most important people, and there is absolutely no doubt that the fans at home and the fans in the ground are the biggest victim of this. I mean, Wolves have been a victim, the clubs are a victim, but the viewing experience is the victim. Points are being lost. Games are being elongated, decisions are being made subjectively badly. It needs switching off. And to all the idealists out there saying, I don't want VAR to go because it's not VAR's fault. Well, let's keep it then, and let's see what happens next season. Like, these inept people are not going to suddenly become good.
No.
You need to switch it off. I like your model of, we'll keep it for offside, we'll keep it for goal line technology, we'll switch it off for penalties, red cards and handballs, and we'll just run it like they do in the Championship. And what we'll do in the background is we'll go back to the drawing board, and we'll actually spend 2 to 3 years working on technology, efficiency, testing it out on different lower leagues like they do with everything else. But for the best league in the world, it needs switching off. It's massively, massively undermined it. Look, if they want to fix it, they could have fixed it. We've been talking about it all season. The best thing they could have done, and it's nothing to do with the technology, is get rid of beyond reasonable doubt. Yeah. Like, if you're the referee on the pitch and you see a penalty decision that you think soft and you don't give it, and then I look at VAR and go, well, Will's my mate. I can see why he's not giving it, so we won't give it. That's wrong. It should be, no, he's missed it on the pitch. It's definitely a foul. Will, you can have a look if you want, but we really think that's a penalty.
And that's what they do in rugby as well, isn't it?
We don't want beyond reasonable doubt. That's the biggest problem. They could have changed that in October. Get rid of subjectivity. You're the referees. I'm VAR. We don't swap over. You're doing it next week. It's a specialist unit that doesn't work with you, and you have accountability. They could have done that. They should do that. They haven't done that. Switch it off. But the big thing is, Will, the expectation is that this vote that Wolves have asked for will get absolutely battered. 20 clubs vote on it. They're reckoning Wolves will get beat by about 15-5. That's a big, big thing. Now, my club, Manchester United, I must applaud. Obviously, I'm a content creator for the United Stand. It's a very big community. But there is a fan group called the Red Army who last night put a statement out with a Google Doc voting thing, basically saying to Manchester United Football Club, if you vote to keep VAR, you are voting against the fans of Manchester United. Now, I think this is a really clever movement, and this is something we need to be, Goldbridge saves football, Will and Goldbridge save football, whatever. We save football as a community. This is what you need to be going off to your football club fan groups and doing, because this is the fans' game, and this is something we do need to get behind. And I massively applaud my club and the fan groups for doing it, because Manchester United have got to vote. But who is voting? A board of people who own the football club, or are you voting for the people that matter the most, who have been hindered the most and are suffering the most? And the fact that a Man United fan group and others are coming together and saying to the club, we want you to vote against VAR. And if the club vote to keep VAR, you're going against the fans. It's a big talking point.
It's also mad because the clubs that are going to vote against it, and there'll be those top teams. And you look at Liverpool and you just think, well, like, there's the most...
Well, they were talking about suing them.
Yeah, most set in stone example of like how this system doesn't work when the pressure is applied. And, big shout out to that guy I always chat about, the second assistant, who was the one. Like, surely...
My player of the year.
But also it comes to the point of the people at the top ultimately do not care about the fans. No. Like, and that maybe that will change with Sir Jim and everything that he's bringing to Manchester United. But like, you've only got to cast your mind back 3 or 4 years to realise the Super League happened while we were asleep at the dead of night, and we nearly lost the entire football pyramid within one fell swoop. So these people do not care about us. So we can and I'm trying to engage. Sorry, I'm not trying to take the steam out of this campaign, but ultimately, them people do not give a shit.
Why do they want to vote to keep it though? Like, if you're a Liverpool Football Club who basically lost maybe 3 points from that. Yeah. And also, let's not forget the Doku penalty at the end. So many... and look, I'm not blind to the fact that Wolves are leading this because they're probably the biggest loser this season. You know, I'd be more impressed if Man City led it because I think they've had a lot of decisions go their way. I'd actually applaud Man City if they wanted VAR to be switched off. I don't think Man City will be one of those clubs. But why don't Liverpool want it to be switched off? I mean, surely they can't be just sat there like some people are going, it's not VAR's fault though, is it? You're walking into another season. I predict the same thing happens again next season.
We've got content for days if they keep VAR on because we just know we'll be talking about the same thing.
But it won't change next year, will it?
But also, like, if you're a top club, right, and you're looking to bring in a new system, I don't know, say it's training and it's a filming thing, and I go to you, I've got this system, we think it's all right, it's about 60, 70% there. Well, you're not buying it.
No.
You're an elite club. You're never going to... So why do we have to suffer from something that's not... Like, we're still testing at the very top end of the Premier League.
It's disgusting.
And it just... But I don't think it's like... Wolves, the Man United fan groups, like, there needs to be more done from... Especially, like... What is it? 14 to 6 it needs to be passed by, isn't it? So I think there would be hope, you'd think, with the right clubs, but... I generally just don't think the owners give a toss.
And it annoys me because apathy is, evil prospers when good people sit back and do nothing.
Wow.
And I think it's a line from Spider-Man, but don't bloody moan next season about VAR. I don't want no club statements, and I don't want those people who want to keep it moaning next season. I stand firmly behind the movement to switch it off. Not because I don't believe in technology. I think there probably will be some AI-assisted system that comes in the future that we need to test.
Be the Terminator that takes over.
But it needs to be switched off at the moment because Will's right. We are testing in the biggest league in the world, and it's a bloody joke. And that season is without doubt the worst Premier League season I've ever seen for a multitude of reasons. But primarily, I think the PGMOL has been a disaster. And you can't keep something that's that bad because we just train the people. They're off on holiday. They're not bloody going to Stanley Park to spend 12 hours a day making it right. They're all going to be bloody on holiday or at the Euros. It's not fit for purpose. I think it can be fit for purpose. It's not fit for purpose at the moment. It needs switching off. And clubs need to follow what Man United have done. Big supporters groups at Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, other clubs, Ipswich coming up. You're going to fucking feel... The 3 promoted clubs need to bloody vote for it. You're going to feel this coming through massively. You need to vote against it. And you need to get your clubs to vote against it because this is about fans.
And also, it's a personnel thing because you cast your mind back to the 2018 World Cup when it was first implemented. No, whenever it was first implemented was at a major tournament. Absolute bliss.
Is it Russia?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Enjoying VAR, always going to the screen.
But they got it right, didn't they?
They got it right because they had the best officials, minus the ones that we sent over, in the world. So we can't implement that with, how many times I've said the ones in the EFL, like that's not your academy of the future you're looking forward to because... Absolute pish. We're down in League One. We haven't even got goal line technology next year.
What makes me laugh at the end of this season, it's almost like they gave up because I'm seeing like tackles that were red cards at the start of the season over the last few weeks, and it's sort of like it's not a red card anymore.
Yeah, but even like the Anthony Gordon one at Old Trafford,
a penalty.
Yeah, penalty, 100%. Red card. It's easy. But then the absolute audacity of the final goal for Arsenal. Jesus handballs it, pushes it on, score a goal from it. Michael Oliver gets sent to the screen. Everyone's like, we're going to gives the goal.
I tell you what, talking about Man City's Player of the Year, I know he didn't play for them, but Michael Oliver, when you look back at it, some of the decisions that he's got wrong this season are incredible. But look, Michael Oliver wouldn't even be... This is a great point. Look, in defence of Michael Oliver, I am real, by the way.
Something's happened
in
today.
defence of Michael Oliver, if VAR wasn't there this season... would we have spoken about him as much? Because it's only because VAR's there that we go, well, he got it wrong, but he shouldn't get it wrong.
Be the next stooge in his place. Like the big thing for me for VAR is the level of the Michael Oliver example there is the perfect thing of like this elitism. It must exist of like your Anthony Taylors and Oliver sitting at top of the tree, and if you're a younger official, like you wouldn't want to speak out about it because right, is that your pathway or is he going to stop me going forward? So I generally think there's an actual dynamics issue inside the PGMOL L.
We'll move on to Pratt of the Week, which is a football club. But I just want to say, just reminded me there, talking about conspiracy theorists, a Liverpool fan said this to me weeks ago. They said, it's not quite flat earth, but they said in relation to VAR, their conspiracy theory was that it was only implemented to protect referees in the sense that, and he spoke to me about the Doku penalty, and he said, if that penalty wasn't given and we didn't have VAR, Michael Oliver would have just got so much heat because he's made the decision. But because VAR's there, you can sort of pass off a bit of blame to them, and it sort of dilutes the blame down so that nobody's ever accountable. There's no accountability. And Howard Webb will come out, give it 2 weeks, and he said it's all a big play. They know it's not fit for purpose, but what it does do is dilute pressure on the referees because they can collectively sponge up the blame.
Yeah. No, it's not bad, that.
Let's move on. We are going to talk Pratt of the Week, and I am going to put forward a football team for this, and it's going to be Spurs. We spoke about Spurs last week. I think Spurs are Pratt of the Week. I know Villa were probably hungover against Crystal Palace, and they did get pumped, but I think Will, they would have lost that game anyway.
Villa's end to the season hasn't been great at all. Like, obviously they were on TV for the game against Liverpool and had a good comeback. But their end to the season has been pretty dire. And yeah, they would have still lost that game at Crystal Palace. So the fact, like, I still can't believe that. Like that should be. I think we'll come on to some awards maybe later on for another episode. But I always get it wrong. Ballon d'Or. No.
Bellend.
Was that what we're going to do?
Ballon d'Or, I think. Yeah.
I think Spurs could be up there for like
Ballon d'Or.
Throwing away a Champions League place for, a club rivalry that is massive and does exist, but you've got to put yourselves first. And to be fair, Big Ange has come out of it sort of really good, I think, haven't you? Because even the fans have sort of been like, yeah, got that one wrong.
What did you see what he said in his press conference on, I think it was Friday? He said it's been the hardest week of his career.
Yeah.
Which I like. I don't get why Spurs fans had a problem with him. Like, he's not a Spurs fan. He's there to win. Yeah. He wants to win, and you prevented him from winning on Tuesday because the fans in the ground were happy to lose, and apparently some people in the club were quite happy to lose as well. He said inside and out, he's had a wake up call. So I think Ange has come out.
Ange depressed as well. It's like even more scary, and he's like, "Mate, I've learned a lot this week inside and outside the club."
Yeah. Good impression. And look, I've always been a bit on the fence with Ange, but I think his behaviour over the last week has been impeccable, and I love that. You know,
could very easily in your first season as a manager see that, and then sort of think, right, what's the right move here? From like, you hear John Terry speaking about when what's his name came in. Andres Villas-Boas, and like you can imagine someone like him just like, oh, I want to be on the fan side here. So it's like, no, he's like, fuck this, you've actually cost us points, and the fans have come on board.
I think in football it's always nice to see genuine characters like people like Juan Mata, and I just feel with Ange, I'm a man of my word.
What was that?
I'm a man of my word. It's not American. I'm a man of my word. I can't do it. I'm a man of my word.
Mate, I'm a man of my word.
Mate, I'm a man of my word. I can't do it.
It's words just a little twang at the end.
I'm a man of my word, and my word is as strong as oak.
Right, nice, yeah.
Would have been better for me.
What do you think about this post-season tour? Finished the game and they were on a trip to Australia straight away.
Money. Yeah. If they want to do it, they want to do it.
I didn't have a problem with it, and actually think it's better just do it now and then
have your summer off. I mean, there's an injury risk for the Euros and stuff like that, but this is the way football's going. It's interesting. I was listening to the. This is like let's. I want to come back to why Spurs are Pratt of the Week anyway. But this is what we do on the podcast. We can wander into different sort of topical issues. I was listening to the radio the other day, and they had a guy on from NFL. Who's like NFL England, and he was talking about is it the Jacksonville Tigers who come out?
Jacksonville Jaguars.
They've got another 3 games in Europe, so they only have 9 home games a season?
Yeah, so 17 game season.
Yeah, so I think they get 8 or 9 at home, and they've sacrificed 2 to have them in London, which is quite a big thing. And they were saying, but they're happy to do it because they're trying to grow into the markets. I think this is the way the Premier League is going. I think we've got to be eyes open to this.
Well, there was that rule change last week, wasn't there, from FIFA? It was sort of like very subtly done, or just not picked up about a lot by the mainstream media, that there's basically a rule that was changed that related to, you remember when La Liga wanted to do the 39th game abroad, and there was a legal case, but basically that's been cast aside, and basically means it could open the door for an extra game abroad, and then obviously who knows after that as well.
I think La Liga will do it first.
Well, they need the money, don't they?
Yeah, they need the money, and I think they'll be the first ones who
Well, they do like the
official
Super
league games
Cups over in Saudi as well, don't they?
I mean, this is what the podcast's here to do. So make sure you give us a follow and keep listening every week and spreading the word, because, VAR has been the big topic for us from August. And it's amazing when we started talking about VAR at the start of the season. I don't think any of us predicted it was going to be as bad as it actually turned out. So it's a really interesting topic. We're not happy with the 3 p.m. blackout rule. I think that's something that we, definitely need to try and change. But
I'll be interested to see with that, because the Sky are doing first weekend of the season, all EFL games are shown on Sky.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's mad, and yet the Premier League can't do it. So we're now actually differentiating on what teams can and can't play at that time, which is stupid. But I think this is going to happen, and I'd be interested to see what people's comments are on playing, let's say, your club's Premier League game in India or America or Australia, because I think it's the natural. From somebody that is a creative and wants to grow, I can completely understand why, if you were a Liverpool, you'd want to play a game against, let's say, Ipswich in Boston.
Yeah.
Because you'll absolutely sell it out to however many people. But then, as a Liverpool season ticket holder, you're going to be like, hold on a fucking minute. This is Liverpool Football Club. Why are we playing Ipswich in Boston? Look, I'm dead against it. I'm dead against it, because it ultimately is just another strand of the Super League, isn't it? Which is what we didn't want. But in the globalization of the game, I also, the world's getting smaller. The NFL is naturally trying to take games all over the world. For the Premier League to do that, or the Champions League to do that, you've got to play. You can't just play friendlies. Yeah. You've got to take a competitive game.
And also, it's just your way of thinking of it. And this is I've done a fair bit of work on the NFL UK games. But when you meet fans who've travelled over from America, they're absolutely delighted. For them, it's like that sort of.
Well, the players enjoy it as well, don't they?
The players enjoy it. Well, some do and some don't, just because I think they've got the schedules a lot better, because sometimes they were coming in on a Thursday for a Sunday game, but now they do it a lot longer.
They're there for the week, aren't they?
And and the facilities have got better. But from a fan perspective, and to be fair, it's probably a minority, because you think how much you spend in to go and do those trips. But the ones that do come over, it's like a real treat to experience London, do the tourism, but then just see your team in a new setting. And also, from their perspective, meet fans. They probably, a lot of them, until the last couple of years, think we're all dum-dums and don't know the rules, but obviously the passion for the NFL and the understanding that is absolutely massive over here. So I don't think we'd have that from an English perspective, because straight away it'd be like, give us our fucking game back. Do you know what I mean? It's just it is interesting. I feel like it's inevitable, especially with the World Cup going out there in 2026. That's only going to strengthen the love for it over in America, and
What my issue with it is, why I'm against it, and I can see it from a business point of view, I completely can, it's the growth of the game. But why I'm against it is, if Manchester United were playing, let's say, Crystal Palace, and they put it in New York, great for the globalization of the brand and the football and everything like that. But Man United against Crystal Palace at Old Trafford is historically, familiar, and it has its place. It's very, very important. If you take that one, they go, it's only one game. You take that to New York, it's like, well, there is an element of what we saw with the Fury-Usyk fight. I understand why it's there for the money, but the atmosphere was crap.
Yeah.
And that's nothing against Saudi Arabia. Fury.
I think that'd be different for the football.
Fury and Usyk have got every right, if they can earn 3 times as much.
Yeah.
They're putting their lives on the line, etc. But from a footballing sense, the integrity of the game is why I was against the Super League. I don't really want to see Man United not playing games at Old Trafford, because I think it dilutes what we've all been brought up upon. But I think it is coming. And also with the Super Bowl, they're looking at that very, very soon, having the first Super Bowl not in America.
Yeah, well, even with I know some people hate me speaking about the wrestling, but the way that's been taken to London, even France recently, because there's a starvation of actually having the live product. When it's coming to Europe and even different territories, people are absolutely beside themselves. So the atmosphere increases. So there's probably a thought of when it goes to America, they might not understand, but the fan base there is absolutely ravenous. So I think it could again work in the other way.
Let us know what your thoughts are on that. I mean, of course, America has an absolute stranglehold on each sport: wrestling, Super Bowl, American football. They own, there are. The problem we've got with football is there's Bundesliga.
Yeah.
There is this, there is that. Want to just very quickly as well get your thoughts on this. Still want to come back to Spurs, but Arsenal's Invincibles versus Bayer Leverkusen's Invincibles. Who is the better? Now, Will's going to give his opinion. In my opinion, 100% Leverkusen. Not because I want to have a pop at Arsenal Invincibles, which is not what I normally do, but Arsenal Invincibles won the league. They got their Premier League wrapped up in a gold Yorkie wrapper, but they drew 12 games and they didn't win any other tournament other than the Premier League. Leverkusen have broken the Bayern Munich dynasty of a decade by a massive amount of points. I think they only drew 6 or 8. They're also in the German Cup final and the Europa League final. Now, if they win those, I just think what they've achieved, and the Bundesliga is not as strong as the Premier League, but then again, in 03-04, the Premier League wasn't particularly strong either. I think the best ever Invincibles is going to be Leverkusen.
Something's going wrong today because, I do really agree with you.
What they've done is incredible.
And just the sort of nature of when the goals are appearing. We were in our chat the other week and I think they were 2-0 down in that. Was it the Europa ceremony? They were sort of through and then they scored one to go through and then they managed to get one in the 99th minute to keep the undefeated record going. So
it came from nowhere as well. No one was predicting it.
And also, it's not been a build-up like we were speaking of in terms of like Arsenal, like 3 years in the making, like Xabi Alonso. And also, more power to him for staying at Bayer Leverkusen next season because Munich have ended up finishing third, which I think is their lowest finish in God knows how many years.
Dortmund second, or no? Was it Hamburg or Wolfsburg or something?
I don't think it was Dortmund. Was it?
But look, also just to add into that as well, and this is why. And then there's multitude of reasons why I think what they've done is better than what Arsenal did comparatively. But Bayern Munich, Champions League semi-finalists. Borussia Dortmund, Champions League finalists. So the strength of the Bundesliga this year is probably as strong as it's ever been. Yeah. And Leverkusen are unbeaten in the German Cup final and in the Europa League final and have hardly drawn any games. So big shout out to them. I mean, the reason we're mentioning them on this podcast is because not only are they team of the season in Europe, I think they're probably one of the teams of European football history.
Yeah, just the way that they've done it. And
been like interesting if they'd have been in the Champions League.
Yeah, well, and can they progress next year? I
wonder if they'd have won the Champions League if they'd been in it.
You never know.
Interesting. Let's just round up Pratt of the Week. The reason I've gone for Spurs is obviously I think that we spoke about it last week, the fact that their fans and apparently people within the club were quite happy to not beat Man City. I'm not saying that they down tools and lost it on purpose, but they certainly could have been a percentage higher. There could have been a better atmosphere. There could have been more effort. The fact that they did that and basically lost Champions League football, I'll never understand. Like if they'd have got a result against Man City, they'd have beat Sheffield United like they did, and they'd be in the Champions League. It's incredible to me that you would walk into that willingly, like many fans did. They did. Many Spurs fans did. They were happy to lose to City, even if it meant losing Champions League football. Now, this has been compounded this week because I've been watching the 99 documentary about Manchester United, and in that, I remember we beat Spurs 2-1 on the final day, but it reminded me of the fact that obviously Arsenal were our rival. It was the final day of the season. Arsenal, we needed to win the league, which we did 2-1. Now, Spurs, as far as I can remember, weren't anywhere near getting in the Champions League. In fact, I don't think you did in 99. I think it was only the top team that got into Europe. So Spurs go to Old Trafford with nothing really to play for, knowing that if they draw with us, Arsenal win the league. Guess what they did?
Yeah.
They tried.
Yeah.
They were 1-0 up and we beat them 2-1. And I remember that second half. Andy Cole came on, scored in the 48th minute, and then it was tense for 42 minutes because Spurs tried. Even though they knew if they got a point, they would hand the title to Arsenal. So what's gone wrong with Spurs over the last...
No, but to be fair, I think the team, the performance of the team was very good against Manchester City. I think it was just that extra 10% of the fans could have brought them over the line.
It was a weird atmosphere, wasn't it?
Yeah, especially when Son goes through on goal and it was 0-0 till the 70th minute and then it was only 1-0 till later on. I think those fans could have really brought them over the line. But what did you think of the Treble documentary?
Well, just to wrap that up, I just think, message to Spurs fans, you're a great club. I've always liked Spurs. I think you've got your identity back with Ange. I think you were boring under Mourinho and Nunez and Conte. Ange has given you an identity that befits the Spurs I've known since a kid. You just need to get your mentality back. I think it was, in my opinion, I think celebrating Man City and not getting behind your team last Tuesday was a small mentality, and you're better than that. And just look at what that Spurs team did in 99. They went and they tried to stop Man United, even though they knew they had nothing to play for. What's gone wrong? Is that social media? Is that the modern phenomenon? Because we spoke about Liverpool could have downed tools for Blackburn and they didn't. They beat them. I don't know why. Maybe social media spreads this. Let's lose a game. I don't know. I just think. I spoke about it a few weeks ago. I hope we lose to Arsenal so that we can stop Man City winning the league. But when the game actually came around, I was like, no, fuck that. I want to win.
Well, also, it's just putting your club first, isn't it?
Yeah, put your club first, always.
Especially, it's not just even that of winning the game. It was for Champions League football, which could be absolutely defining for Ange's reign.
We'll talk about the documentary. Next season, for me, Arsenal, Man City will be top two.
Yeah.
It's really interesting from 3rd to 8th. You've got
I think Villa will have the drop off from the Champions League.
What I was going to say, you've got Newcastle, Chelsea, Manchester United, who all should be better next year because of injuries. You've then got Villa, Spurs, Liverpool. Villa have got Champions League football. What about Spurs next year? Do you think that's as good as it gets, 5th place and nearly Champions League football, or do you think they can again get themselves above the likes of Man United, Newcastle, Chelsea, Villa? They're going to need a good summer transfer window.
I think it's been a bad week in terms of everything we've just spoken about, but ultimately, like, Big Ange has probably come out even stronger in charge of that club in terms of that relationship, not just with the fans, but in terms of like his leadership in front of those players. And he's like, I think Romano tweeted about the ones that they want to get out already, so that's clear. And if you're clear, concise, you're pragmatic, and you know what you're doing with your team, like that, they'll be knowing what they want to do now, won't they? So I think that's such a strength that they didn't. He'd have had a bit less time last year. So I'm excited for Spurs. I really think they could go into that top 4. And like Liverpool's the one for me. Do they stay 3rd, or do they have a season where they drop out of the Champions League?
I don't do it till August, and my reaction to my Premier League reactions is on That's Football. I've got to go to the pub again for my predictions, but I'm happy to say now Man City first, Arsenal second, and Ipswich, Leicester, and
3rd and 4th.
Southampton down if Southampton beat Leeds. I think those 3 go down. McKenna, if he leaves Ipswich, they're down before they go.
I was thinking about this. Like, if you go to Brighton,
what a move!
Yes, but like, what are you going to achieve? Like, in terms of you might be able to replicate what they did a season ago and get.
But they've just had a bad season though, so they're not.
No, I know
they finished 12th, isn't it?
But like, you think of what he's done with Ipswich. Like, he's turned that club around, back-to-back promotions. Like, I just think he could stay another season and still get a job like that in the future.
I don't know. There's 2 things for me. Well, 3 things. One, it pisses me off when teams get promoted and the manager leaves or their best players leave because they've already got a hard job anyway. And if Ipswich lose McKenna, they're just Sheffield United. But secondly, you'd maybe look at Vincent Kompany and go, if he got offered a Premier League job last season, I better wish he took it because Burnley came up with a load of hype and it didn't work.
But that's been down to them owners like dictating to him about the style of play. Like, that's what he's been told relentlessly.
And thirdly, I think Brighton is absolutely primed to have a much better season next year. No European football. They've had so many injuries. Yeah, I don't see, like last summer, they lost McAllister, Casido. I don't see Matoma, Evan Ferguson, Estebanan and Ciso. I don't see those players, maybe one, but I don't see loads of them being, scouted away. I think Brighton next season will do better. I think Brighton's a really good club to take over, to be honest.
I think a lot of clubs have caught up to what Brighton have been doing because I think it's still, is it Tony Bloom that's the chairman and their sort of secret way that they do recruitment. I think that method, not that specifically, but I think they will have been caught up to a bit in terms of like finding these gems out there, which was their strength. I worry for them next year, and I wonder if that would be in like Kieran McKenna's thinking as well.
I think it'd be really hard to break into that top 8 next season for a Brighton or a West Ham.
Even like West Ham, you've got like Lopetegui coming in.
Has he got that job now?
I think so. Pretty much confirmed, isn't it? But I was going to put De Zerbi in Pratt of the week. Just for the way, like, I think the way he's handled the situation over the end of the season when he was coming out and talking about the contract and everything like that, and just the way he sort of left, I think, like, he obviously that season where they did so well, but like, he's come across really arrogant in my. I understand if you have those goals and that pursuit of wanting to achieve more, but there's ways to do it. Of like, it just shows about that if you're a fan, you are really bottom of the pile.
I just think things can change really quickly. I mean, there'll be clips of me speaking about De Zerbi up before Christmas on what a good manager I think he is, but you're only as good as your last few games, aren't you? I think
who actually is going to take that buying job, because it's absolutely crazy.
Well,
congrats.
But one win in his last 10, And the way that he departed Brighton feels to me like it's a little bit sacky.
Yeah.
It feels to me like they've had a meeting about recruitment. He wants a bit more involvement. Brighton have got their own system, and it's sort of like, well, I don't want to be here, and they've gone, we don't want you, because apparently he hasn't got a club to go to, but he also has got a release clause. So it feels like, if you find a club this summer, that's fine, but they have to pay us.
Yeah.
If they don't, we'll keep paying. It feels like a bit of it's almost like flexing your muscles when you haven't been training for De Zerbi, because he had a really good reputation, but it sort of fell off a little bit, hasn't it?
He had a body that he worked really hard on, and then he just had a few too many.
Well,
crisps.
he's been talking about the Liverpool job, wasn't he? But the last 3 months of the season, he's really.
I know I backed
plummeted.
him. There'll be clips of me backing him all season long, but
good.
I think there's just been a level of arrogance that maybe like he's got above his station.
Yeah, I think, and this is what I talk about Kieran McKenna. It's like there is a time as a manager where you are floating high, and you've got to make hay. And I think with De Zerbi,
It'd be like me thinking this podcast is Brazier Saves Football.
Yeah,
and you going, well, wait a minute, it's my name above the door here.
Well, one day you're riding the wave, and the next you're underneath it. And I think De Zerbi at the moment is he was in a position where he could have gone really to a decent job. He's now going to have to find a job and get up on the wave again.
Yeah, lovely. What do you think of the bloody 99 documentary then?
Really enjoyed it, but when it had finished, I was like, I felt like there was some components missing.
Yeah.
I think it was a really great story, and I liked the way that it was sort of like going back.
Yeah.
It didn't follow a natural chronological thing, because obviously there's 3 separate episodes, and I liked the way in the final episode about the final, they kept going back to like 98, 97 and showing us going out of Europe. I just think that it's difficult, isn't it? Everyone's going to do it differently, but, Phil Neville swearing, I didn't really...
Well, he's
a peripheral character. Roy Keane wasn't even in it.
Yeah.
I think you had Sir Alex Ferguson, but you could have had a hell of a lot more of him.
Yeah.
You had Neville, you had Beckham, you could have had, they were in it
like
quite
when
a
they
lot.
were speaking about Ferguson winning the Champions League and obviously the pressure of the Busby Babes and stuff, but they've just got Steve McLaren speaking about it.
Yeah.
And I was like,
it was almost like they had only a little bit of time with Sir Alex, so let's use Phil Neville and David May. And there was one bit in it where David May was saying, when I didn't play in the final, I was absolutely fuming and I was going to have words, and it was only the respect to the man. And I was like, mate, you should never have been in that final. Stop acting. You were very fortunate to be part of that team as a squad player. There's no way you should have started that game. And I thought there was also that story about Sir Alex Ferguson was going to quit. That's never come out before.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never heard that before.
Well, that's good insight though. But
it comes out in a documentary like that. I don't know why that's never come out before.
Yeah, well,
because it's quite big.
Maybe only 2 people knew.
Yeah, it's massive. He was going to leave because he was disillusioned.
And also, when you so in football like now, and obviously reflect back nostalgically, Sir Alex Ferguson's this absolute behemoth, the greatest manager in Premier League history. But then you look at those reports at the time of should Ferguson go? 53% since yes, and you think now it'd be like that's absolutely crazy. But you don't know what you don't know, do you?
No, and I also thought their coverage of the final I found a little bit disrespectful, because they were everybody was going, can't believe the team he picked. And players that were in the team, and even Steve McLaren was like, what's he doing here then? And there's players going, why has he picked him then? And I'm like, hold on a minute, that was the greatest night of my life as a football fan. And I was like, I don't remember seeing that team and going, what the fuck? Sometimes I was like...
I sort of get it though. If the strength was Beckham crossing it in, Giggs down the left, and then you just thrown that out the window.
And also, I think that game, Beckham was my man of the match. He played really well, and I was glad he said it in the documentary that I thought I had a good game. It just didn't work out, but Bayern Munich were a bloody good team. I think that the biggest thing that hit me when we went into the last couple of minutes was that there was this big hype that it was meant to be, and Sir Matt Busby's birthday, and we were going to win a treble, our first European Cup in years and years. You just were like, this is going to, before the match, waking up that morning, this is going to be the best day ever. And then suddenly football bites you on the arse and you're like, oh my God. Because in those days, you didn't have Champions League coverage or Bundesliga. So you didn't really, when a World Cup came along, you'd go, who's these Germans? You just didn't know. So it was the same when we played Bayern Munich. It was like, you sort of heard they'd won the league. So my mate down the road said he's just been on holiday in Berlin, and apparently they've won the league there, and they're going for a treble as well. Don't give a shit. Never heard of them. They're crap. And then you suddenly go, they're really good. So, but yeah, Bayern Munich.
Well, it's good. It was very nostalgic. There was that good bit of insight of Fergie leaving. I just felt that, especially the last episode, I felt was a bit flat, just in terms of.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really good. I think it could be. It's always down to a producer and what's available. I'd love Roy Keane to have been more involved in it, because I think he was so massively part of that. And, you know, it's sad how he was a bit of a peripheral character at the end when it's like, you missed the final, mate, but you got us there. But also, I didn't like the whole questioning of his team selections. Like, it almost came across that he fluked it. And obviously we did score 2 very, very late goals, but we didn't fluke it. We had 2 of our best players not available. And it would be like England playing a World Cup final against France and you haven't got Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane. Yeah. It's a problem, isn't it? Yeah. But, you know, ultimately it's nice when those sort of things get done like that, because there's so many people who weren't alive then who've mentioned it to me and gone, what a time. And I was like, what a time. It was amazing. You know, I was like 19. Yeah. So I was on the drink.
Prime, yeah.
And it was great. Lovely stuff. Should we do the quiz?
Yeah, let's do the quiz. It's time to get excited because we do love the quiz, don't we?
We do. I'm doing well at quizzes. I've defeated Ben Foster across a whole year on the football filling.
Congratulations, mate.
You know, and he was there every week and I wasn't.
What was this? He was taking the piss out of my golf swing this morning?
Apparently your golf swing's not great.
Yeah, it's absolutely awful. So if anyone out there is a golf professional, please get in touch.
I can't defend you because I don't know anything about golf. And that will remain.
I think golf would be perfect for you. Just to get out of the house, put your phone in your bag.
It's too long.
Yeah, but that's why it's good. Just chill. He'd be good at golf, wouldn't he? No?
Yeah, I think you'd be all right.
Not with my back. It's too stiff.
No, you'd be fine. We'll get you worked out.
Okay.
Let's go for the quiz then. What's the context of this one, Niall?
Well, we're starting off with promoted teams and relegated teams.
Wow. Lovely stuff,
Who would like to go first?
I'll go first this week.
Okay.
Because I won last week.
Yeah, 1-1.
Okay, so this is the second time that all promoted teams have gone down. What was the previous year when all promoted clubs were relegated?
Oh, I know this, and I think it's like, is it 2014-15?
No.
Is it 2006, 2007?
No, it is 97-98.
Bloody hell.
97-98, wow.
I tell you what, though, I think that paints a false picture, because I guarantee that if you looked at the teams promoted and relegated over the last 10 years, there's a lot of clubs that are parachute payments. Anyway,
this makes this next question quite difficult then.
Okay.
It is down as, can you name the teams that were relegated in that 97-98, but maybe if you want to
No, fine. I had Premier League years on VHS. It was my first introduction to football. So I will go with Barnsley, with where Watto was playing. I'll go for... I almost think Blackburn got relegated then. I'll go for Derby County, and I'll go for Barnsley, Leicester.
You're never going to get all three. Anyway.
I'll go for Bolton Wanderers.
I'll reveal you got 2 out of the 3 there.
But Bolton was the wrong one.
Well, I don't...
Sheffield Wednesday.
No, it was Palace was the last one.
Crystal Palace?
Yeah.
And who was the other one?
Barnsley and Bolton, you got right.
Yeah. Bolton was right.
No point. Next one. Tough one, that.
So with this being the highest scoring, the amount of goals scored in the Premier League ever, and Haaland being top goal scorer this season, can you give me position 2nd, 3rd and 4th in the Premier League scoring record this season?
What, for teams?
No,
or
for players.
What, who came 2nd, 3rd and 4th in goal scorers?
Yeah.
Palmer, 2nd. Watkins, 3rd. Slanky, 4th.
No.
It's...
I've got 4th.
We don't need. You don't.
No, hold on.
I can fucking name all 3.
Watkins was actually in the 4th.
Okay, so Palmer, Mateta, Watkins.
No,
who was it?
You've missed Isak out.
Good one though.
So
we not got a point yet.
No, it's hard though.
That was quite hard. Sorry. Again, keeping on the high goal scoring topic, who is the top 4? So the top 4 for the highest scoring. you put me off with the look there. So the top 4 for the amount of goals scored in the Premier League this season. Who has took 4th spot, because it is an Aston Villa.
Right, got you. So it's gone in order for that, basically.
I know. It
Man
is.
City, Arsenal, Liverpool.
And who is in 4th position?
Yeah, but it's not your time, mate. So wait, you're saying.
Get on with it then.
Sorry if I worded that.
No, it's fine, mate. That's fine. I'll go for Chelsea.
No, Newcastle.
Correct.
Yes, come on.
1-0.
They've scored loads of goals.
Yeah, good. on
Obviously.
them. Yeah.
With Klopp leaving this season, where did he finish in his first season at the club?
Oh, I would say he finished. I want to say 8th, but I don't think it was. I'm going to say 8th.
Correct.
Yeah, 2.
Go on.
Go with your hunch.
Yeah. All right. Go.
How many managers have been sacked this season?
Oh.
We spoke about this, didn't we?
Yeah.
The other night.
I can't think of that many more. 3.
4.
2.
Oh. Good
well,
question.
it was Cooper and Hodgson.
No. Yes. No. Hodgson, it was departed. That's not a sacking.
Oh, right, okay.
It was
Cooper
the
and
Sheffield.
Well,
Sheffield
Cooper
United,
was
yeah,
sacked. I mean,
Yeah, no, it was
Hodgson was sacked.
I had departed in
Yeah,
my source.
no points.
No.
Question 4. What did you say? 3?
Yeah.
Right. So with Pep staying, he wants to stay another season. Who is Pep's most capped player?
This season? Or
No,
all time?
over Pep's tenure.
Kevin De Bruyne.
That's my question.
That's my question.
I thought it was Will's question.
All right, it's your question.
Kevin De Bruyne.
No.
Over his whole tenure, I would say, Pep. Yeah, I'm thinking across the whole lot. Pep Guardiola, I would say Kyle Walker.
Edison.
Yeah, it's always a
he's- yeah,
goalkeeper.
fucking shitbag.
It's always a goalkeeper. Is this question 4 or 5?
Well, it's in round
Round
4.
5.
This is the second to last question that I've got.
Yeah,
before.
okay, yeah, round 5.
You're tuning up.
So City have won 4 in a row. Can you name the other club besides City, Arsenal and Liverpool to have won 3 league titles in a row?
Man United.
City, besides United, Arsenal and
say, I
Liverpool,
was
like-
2
Done it
and 3
twice.
in a row. Sorry.
Well, I didn't know anyone else had done it. So
Not
Man
in the
United.
Prem, is it? It's not in the Prem.
It's over.
So who have you
league
said have done it?
titles.
Man United, Liverpool,
So
and City.
City, Liverpool, Arsenal and United have done it.
And another club have done it.
Another club have done it.
I would say Preston North End.
Incorrect.
I think is it Huddersfield Town?
It is Huddersfield Town.
Yeah, smell my cheese.
Could level up.
Yeah.
Okay, so final question I've got now. Is it 2-1 at the minute?
2-1, yes.
Yeah.
I need this for the tiebreaker.
Okay. I thought this was particularly difficult,
Go
but
on.
you might laugh at me. Can you put in order from the Premier League this season, 10th to 15th correctly?
Oh.
No. I couldn't even tell you he's 10th.
I know who's 9th, West Ham.
That is not the question.
I think I know, yeah.
10th. I'm just going to go for... I literally can't even name 10 clubs. Crystal Palace, Brighton, Wolves, Bournemouth, Brentford.
Incorrect.
No.
He's got
Not bad,
4,
though. That
he's
was
got
good.
4 of the right. I'd say Crystal Palace, Bournemouth.
That's incorrect.
Everton's the other one anyway, isn't it?
It's Crystal Palace, Brighton, Bournemouth, Fulham, Wolves.
Fulham.
Oh,
Everton.
yeah, Fulham. I forgot about fucking Fulham.
Well done, mate.
Well done. Another win for me. 2-1.
And also a massive congratulations to our FPL winner.
yeah.
There was so many people in that league. So a massive shout out to Philip Marshall. You win fuck all, but congratulations anyway.
You got a shout out on the podcast, which is great. Big podcast. Thanks, everyone. Don't forget to get your comments in. Give us a follow. 5 stars as usual. We are back on Friday because it's the FA Cup preview we're going to do. And then we've got a really good show coming up. Let us know if you want more of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. Obviously banned by Everton, the cease and desist stuff. And I've got another little bit of story to tell you over the next 7 days as well about a big development around what we're doing next season as well. So we'll talk about that as well. Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Mark.
What are you laughing at?
It's just sounded funny. It just sounded like you're ill.
Yeah, I'm not ill. Take care, everyone. We'll speak to you on the next one.